Hello everyone, and welcome to NSTA Web Seminars, where you can find live interactive learning at your desktop. My name is Ruth Hudson, and I will be moderating today's program. Today's seminar is titled Developing a Competitive Application for the Shell Science Lab Challenge. Our presenter is Ruud. And now I'd like to introduce today's presenter. Ruud is the lead judge for the Shell Science Lab Challenge. I'll turn the program over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. It's nice to have another Ruth. Welcome, everyone. I'm really glad that you're all on this webinar to learn more about how you can apply for the Shell Science Lab Challenge competition. The Shell Science Lab Challenge is a program of NSTA. Our agenda tonight, we're going to talk about the award, the competition, the eligibility for it. We're going to talk about criteria for judging, what you need to do, what are the requirements to submit the award, and the three parts of the narrative: the science instructional strategies, the current and desired lab resources, and the lab activity. Then we're going to give you directions on submitting that application. We have a new feature tonight from Shell. It's called the Regional Challenge Information. And we have a couple slides on that. And what this new regional challenge involves. And then questions. You can also ask questions as you go in the chat window. Amanda Upton, the project manager, is with us tonight, and she will also answer your questions with the chat window. All right, Ruth, we have a poll question. Are you planning to apply this year? So, Ruth, I'm going to turn it over to you to do the poll.
All right, thank you very much. If you're planning to apply this year, or maybe not, you just haven't decided, go ahead and give us some input. So A, definitely yes. B, maybe. C, not this year. And I'll go ahead and wait for our 23 participants to go ahead and respond to that poll. Give you about 30 more seconds. Right now we just have about 9 people that are responding. So instead of responding in the chat window, what I'd really like you to do is, if you look below your name, there is a poll button that has an A with a box, and that gives you a drop-down menu and you can vote. So I'll give you just a little bit longer to vote with that. And I'll go ahead and block those responses, or lock those responses, and then publish them to the whiteboard. So I'm going to go ahead and lock responses, and now I'm going to publish them to the whiteboard. And Ruth, it is all yours.
Thank you, Ruth. Wow. We have 6 that are definitely applying, which is great, 4 maybes, and then again we have 15 that are not this year. Thank you for doing the poll. All right. Have you ever applied before? What do you hope to learn from this webinar? If so, use the chat window to share what you hope to learn tonight. So in the chat, put down what you hope to learn. And let us know if you have applied before. The Shell Science Lab Challenge overview. Shell, Carolina Biological Supply Company, and the National Science Teachers Association have partnered to recognize outstanding middle and high school programs for their exemplary approaches to science lab instruction, utilizing limited school and laboratory resources. The challenge will showcase the work of teachers who share their exemplary approach to teaching science with minimal lab equipment. Challenge will award teachers and their schools with additional tools, resources, and rich professional development opportunities needed to support high-quality science teaching to strengthen their existing capabilities. The Regional Challenge is a new program That includes K-12 teachers in specific areas where Shell has operations in the United States. And when we get to the slide that talks about the regional challenge, we'll be able to show you just where those locations are in the United States. For the Shell Science Lab Challenge, there are 18 winners that will be selected. One winner in each of the 18 NSTA districts. So your first, when we do the judging, with the first getting through the finals, you will only be in competition with those from your NSTA district. You are not in competition with everyone from the United States. So that's all really good news too. Of the 18 district winners, 13 district winner schools not advancing as a national finalist will each receive a total prize package valued at $3,000. After that, the other 5 that are remaining, then they are reviewed, and they will be 4 national finalist schools that will receive a total prize package valued at $8,500. And 1 grand prize winning school will receive a total prize package valued at $20,000. Here's what the award is. The district winner prize package valued at $3,000 includes $1,000 Shell cash grant for the school, $1,000 in Carolina Biological Lab equipment, and $1,000 in NSTA prizes. The national finalist prize package, valued at $8,500, includes $3,000 of the Shell cash grant for the school, $3,000 in Carolina Biological Lab equipment, $1,000 in NSTA prizes, and $1,500 in a sponsored trip to the NSTA National Conference on Science Education in Atlanta, Georgia. And that will be for 1 teacher. Okay? The grand prize award, valued at $20,000, includes $5,000 for the Shell cash grant for the school, $5,000 in Carolina Biological Lab equipment, $4,000 in NSTA prizes, and $6,000 in sponsored trips to the NSTA National Conference on Science Education in Atlanta for 2 teachers. The national finalist and the grand prize winner will be honored at the NSTA Teacher Awards Gala at NSTA's National Conference on Science Education in Atlanta, Georgia, March 15th to the 18th, 2018. All expense paid trip for these 3 teachers. And that's one of our finalists in getting her $8,500 check. Shell Lab Regional Challenge. Now the Regional Challenge is the new competition for this year, and it is going to be targeting areas that are near Shell assets. There will be 36 regional winners that will advance for national consideration. 33 regional winner schools not advancing as a national finalist will each receive a total prize package valued at $10,000 for the elementary middle level and $15,000 for the high school level. 3 national grand prize schools will each receive an additional total prize package valued at $5,000. The Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge. The regional winner, the elementary middle prize package valued at $10,000, include $5,000 in Smithsonian curriculum and Carolina Biological Lab equipment, and $5,000 in NSTA prizes. The regional winner of the high school prize package, valued at $15,000, includes $10,000 in Carolina Biological Lab equipment and $5,000 in NSTA prizes. The grand prize package, valued at $5,000, includes a sponsored trip for the teacher and principal of one elementary, one middle, and one high school to the NSTA National Conference on Science Education in St. Louis, March 2019. All right, Ruth, we have a poll question. Have you attended an NSTA conference on science education? So I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. So if it's yes, please mark the box with the X. That the drop-down menu will give you a yes. And if not, mark the X for no. And it looks like everybody's figured out this poll. And I'm very excited about that. Thank you. I'm going to give you just a little bit more time. We have 15 respondents right now. We have 26 in the room. So it would be very nice to see if we could get everyone that is able to respond for this. I'll give you about 10 more seconds. I'm moving up to lock your responses. So I'm going to lock the responses, and I'm publishing those responses to the whiteboard. And it's all yours, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. It looks like we have 9 who have not, and 7 have, and then we have 10 who have looks like none. So we have about 19 who have not attended an NSTA conference and 7 that have. So here's a chance to win that trip to an NSTA conference. So now, how are you eligible? First of all, this is for the Shell Science Lab Challenge. This is for the teachers of science in grades 6 to 12 in the 50 United States, U.S. jurisdictions, and Canada, because Canada is District 18 for NSTA. The jurisdictions include Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, Department of Defense schools, and the U.S. territories as a group, America, Samoa, Guam, the Commonwealth, and the Northern Mariana Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Teachers may submit an entry as an individual applicant or as a team of 2 teachers. A school could submit an unlimited number of applications. A teacher is limited to only 1 application per year, whether submitting as an individual or as a team applicant. And what the team applicant means, you have somebody who maybe teaches in the room next to you. Maybe in a middle school or high school, you may teach the 2 different grades that you can share the materials. So this is a great opportunity to complete 1 application for the both of you. Now, the eligibility for the Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge. These are teachers of science in grades K to 12 in the following targeted areas only. And these are areas where there is near Shell assets. So I'll let you look through where these are. We have the one in Mobile, Alabama. Then we have a couple in California, Louisiana, where the different parishes are. Monaca, Pennsylvania, you have those school districts there. Deer Park, Texas. Kermit, Texas. Puget Sound, Washington. Houston, Texas. And notice the school districts are listed there too. And for the Shell Lab Regional Challenge, teachers may submit an entry as an individual applicant or as a team of 2 teachers. It's the same as the other. A school may submit an unlimited number of applications. The teacher is limited to only 1, whether submitting as an individual or team. The school may win up to 2 prize packages total, may only compete in 1 challenge. In other words, if you are grades 6 to 12, you need to decide, will you compete in the regional challenge or will you compete in the Shell Lab Challenge? The Shell Science Lab Challenge judging panel will review the received applications on December 15, 2017. the applications are due that day. They will be reviewing them probably the beginning of January. The judging panel will then select up to 54 district finalists, including a possible of 3 district finalists in each of the 18 NSTA districts. So, from each of the 18 districts, it is possible to have 3 district finalists. The regional challenge judges will select up to 72 regional finalists. The district finalist and the regional finalist will be asked to provide additional responses that include a short video, 3 to 5 minutes, that displays the school's current science laboratory facilities. Only the district's finalist of the National Shell Science Lab Challenge will provide further explanation of how winning equipment resources would make a difference in their science teaching and learning experiences for students. From this, the judging panel will select the 18 NSTA district winners. And then the grand prize winner and the 4 national finalists will be selected from the pool of NSTA district winners. The regional challenge grand prize winning schools will be selected from the regional winner pool. And when you go online, www.nsta.org/Science Lab, you will see there are 2 different places. A regional is down at the bottom where you would submit that, and then another place for the Shell Science Lab Challenge on that page. All right, to submit your application or nominate a colleague, you go to the Shell Science Lab Challenge, www.nsta.org/Shell Science Lab, or the sub-tab for the Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge on the same page. You're going to create an account, get a username and and a password, and then you may save and continue your submission at any point until the deadline of December the 15th, 2017. And that's what it looks like when you start your account. Let's pause for 2 questions from the audience about the award, whether it's the Shell Science Lab Challenge or the Regional Lab Challenge, eligibility, or the selection process.
All right, Ruth, we have a question from Janine. She wants to know if you have to be nominated to apply.
No, you don't. You may just apply. But the nomination button is there in case maybe there's an elementary teacher who is not near the Shell assets and does not qualify for the regional one, who wants to nominate a middle school teacher or a high school teacher in their district who they feel would benefit. That is one way to do that. But no, you can just go right online and begin the application. Okay, Ruth?
All right, thank you. If you have any other questions, go ahead and type them into the chat window. We're going to take one more question. And it looks like we have some people that are typing, so I'm going to give them just a minute to finish typing. It doesn't look like anyone else is typing now, Ruth, so let's go ahead and move on to our poll.
All right. Our next poll question is, how many years of science teaching experience do you have? A is 0 to 5, B is 6 to 9, C is 10 to 14, and D is 15 plus years.
I'll go ahead and give you a couple of moments to go ahead and answer your response or put your response in. And for those of you that are still figuring out the poll button, all you have to do, if you have the poll tool, it will appear as a box and an A right underneath your name. And you just use that drop-down menu to select. And it looks like we almost have over half. So go ahead and, oh, thank you, Shirley, that you went ahead and did an E and put in admin. So I'm going to give you 30 more seconds, and I will lock our responses. And I'm publishing those to the whiteboard right now. It's all yours, Ruth.
Thank you. Well, we have 8 teachers who have 0 to 5, 2 teachers at 6 to 9 years, 1 teacher 10 to 14, and then 6 with 15 plus, and then we have 8 who do not have, they may have other areas of expertise in, outside the science teaching one. All right, we'll continue on. Good point. Our submission requirements. Everything will be completed online. All right, and the online application includes a narrative describing the applicant's science laboratory practices and innovative use of limited laboratory equipment and resources. We'll have more details on the next slide. A letter of support or validation from the principal or another educational supervisor who can describe the merit of the applicant's work and validate, attest to, or support statements made in the application narrative. You would also like your principal or other education supervisor to include in there why does your district or your school need this lab makeover? Why can't they fund it? Also, you would need a resume or vita with your overview of your teaching experience, your education, your community involvement, and previous awards or recognitions. That should be 1 to 2 pages. If you're applying with another teacher, then each of you must submit a vita for each one of you. As far as the letter goes, it's 1 to 2 pages from the principal, and if there's 2 of you applying, then you would only have 1 letter and 1 narrative. Narrative question 1, the science instructional strategies. So this is equivalent character count of 1 paragraph. We're looking for 1,000 character count limit. You're going to briefly describe your science teaching philosophy and the strategies used to teach science. And we have an exemplar here of a past grand prize winner, Asia Brown from Brooklyn, New York. And you can take a minute to read her teaching philosophy. And some of the strategies that she uses. She has a lesson about just dissecting a fetal pig. Right. So again, this is only 1,000 character count. Not very long at all. The second question, what current and lab resources do you have now, and what would you like? So you're going to, this one has 2,700 characters. You're going to describe your school's current lab facilities. What types of equipment or resources do you have in the facilities? You're going to explain why a lab upgrade is needed and how this lab upgrade would impact your teaching and the students' content knowledge, and how the lab upgraded addresses the needs of your students. So again, we want to know why you need this support, how the lab upgrade would impact the teaching and the students' content knowledge. How would it make a difference in their science education, their science learning? And how does the lab upgrade address the needs of your students? Question 3, a lab activity. This is again equivalent to 2,700 characters. You are going to describe an innovative, replicable lab activity that you have implemented using limited school lab resources with assessments. When we're talking about innovative, what we mean is that it is not from a workbook, it's not from a teaching manual, it's innovative that way. Replicable, it's something that a teacher that teaches in middle school, and you're a middle school teacher, could use that lab activity. And this lab activity is one that you've used now that you have limited school lab resources, and you're going to provide assessments for that too, for yours. So you're going to write this similar to writing a lesson plan. You're going to explain the purpose and the outcome of your lesson. You're going to state what materials you need. You're going to tell us how the activity relates to state, national science education standards, and/or NGSS. Notice this is in bold. How do you address safety requirements with this lab activity? Do your students need to wear goggles? Do they need to wear gloves? How do you address the safety requirements? And how do you assess the activity? Going back to here, this question, how the activity relates to the standards or NGSS, we don't want the full detailed standard listed because that's going to take up a lot of your 2,700 characters. Just list the title and maybe one or two sentences that explain how, say, NGSS is related to the subject or the content that you've taken. All right, let's pause for questions from the audience about the submission requirements. So we'll take a few minutes if you'd like to put some questions in the chat box.
So it appears we have some that are typing away, and so we'll just wait a minute and see. So if you have some questions about how to submit this or any questions about the write-up, go ahead and type those into the box or to the chat window right now so that Ruth can answer those. Looks like we still have 2 people that are typing. Sometimes it just takes those questions a bit of time to be typed. So I have a question while we're waiting that maybe you could answer. What if you've won in the past and you now suddenly have a need? Are you able to apply to the Shell Lab Challenge if you've been a previous winner?
Yes, you can, unless you have been the grand prize winner, then you cannot. But any of the district winners or the national finalists may apply again. However, they will notice that on the application, they will be asked to to state what they did with their monies, right? Okay. So what type of lab resources did they get, and how are they using them, and what they, and why they're applying again for it. So again, yes, they can. And if they're a district winner and won the 3,000, we might encourage them to try again to go for the national prize too. All right?
Very good.
So thank you, Ruth. Good question.
So we have a question. Can private schools qualify? A little disclaimer. Our yearly tuition is not high and the number of students is very low. How can I justify that I need the funding?
That's a very good question. We have had private schools win the district level, and I'm sure for the national. One thing that we do ask, especially in the principal's letter and in the applicant's narrative, is to tell us, what type of resources you have now. And again, we can use that as far as, what is the economic status of your school, of the district it's in, of the area that it's in. That would play into effect. Even if you're a private school, I'm sure you have students that may qualify for Title I or free and reduced. You do have some students that possibly are needy, so to speak. So again, you would put that in the principal letter. Yes, the unemployment level in the community. So look at the status of that community. A lot of times even a private school is affected by the conditions in the community surrounding that school. So I hope I answered that question. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any other questions. As we go on, if you think of a question, put it in the chat box. All right, Ruth, I'm going to continue on. Poll question, Ruth. What to you is the most challenging part of applying? Is it A, meeting the parameters, getting your letter of support from the principal? Is it doing the writing an effective narrative, writing a vita, finding the time to do it, or what other would be E? And if you do E, would you write down for us what that is in the chat window? Okay, Ruth, are we ready?
Yes, we are. It's all set up, and all you have to do is just use the drop-down menu. It will have a letter in it at this time with a box around it. Go ahead and vote quickly, and then we can find out more about how NSTA makes it easy for us to apply for this great lab challenge. So we have more people applying or voting, and so I'm going to wait about 30 more seconds to allow people to vote. There are some that are voting in the chat. Shirley has to because she's on a Android phone, Android device. So, and Shirley's saying that she needs to find the time to do it. And I think that's probably pretty common with many of us. So I'm going to go ahead and lock those responses, and then I'm publishing them to the whiteboard so that you can see them, Ruth.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, 1 said meeting the parameters would be hard. 6 said writing an effective narrative. C, we didn't have anybody writing a vita because you probably have been updating as you go. For D, we have 5 who have said finding the time to do it. And other E, we have 1. And then we have 11 who didn't answer our poll question. So again, writing the effective narrative, that can be a little daunting at times. But we suggest you have somebody else read it after you've done the beginning, maybe the first one. Might want to make an outline and then write from the outline. If you go back and look at it, the narrative itself is not hard. You all have a lab activity, so that takes care of one part of it. So you only have 2 more parts to do. Probably the hardest thing here is finding the time to do it, because we all can set aside time, and then all of a sudden, something gets in the way of what we've scheduled. So again, this is due December the 15th, which is less than 2 months away. So I would suggest that you start writing now, and the first thing to do is go to your principal and talk to your principal about it and let them know you need this letter. You may have to write the letter, you may have to outline the letter for them, depending on the time your principal has and the writing skills type too, because a lot of times they're administrative assistants do this. But again, you can give them the outline and let them know what should go in that letter. Your VITA, that should be pretty much done. If not, take that time to update it. Make sure that if you have professional development, you can put that in. You have 2 pages. So I know that as a teacher, a lot of times we want to be humble. Don't be humble. Just put down everything that you can think of in there under the different categories. And then again, that will help as far as finding the time, because you'll find that really finishing the application page is not difficult. Getting that letter of support, getting the resume, and it's just really putting together the narrative. All right, I've talked more than I need to about this. Thank you, Ruth. I'm going to go on. All right, the criteria for judging, because I'm sure that's what you really want to hear too. When we look at your application, we are looking to see that you've demonstrated science, inquiry, innovation in the middle or high school classroom with limited equipment and materials. Elementary is included for the regional challenge. We look to see that you've demonstrated impact and engagement with students. How have you impacted their science education and learning? How have you engaged with students with your activities? Your need for support. How have you demonstrated that? Notice that's in bold. To improve science laboratory experiences. How have you demonstrated support of middle or high school education standards? Elementary is included for regional challenge. Use of safety practices. And we want to see the safety wherever is necessary. Your lab activity should definitely you should include what you use for safety when you're doing that lab activity. Again, so be aware of discussing safety practices as you're going along. Also on the Shell Science Lab Challenge page on nsta.org, you will find there is a scoring guide, and the judges use the scoring guide, and you'll find some points there too. So some sections may be scored higher than others. So be sure you look at that too. I do believe we have a sample narrative there for you to look at, so you may want to look at that to help you too. All right, here's a chat discussion for you. What barriers do you have in completing your application, and how can we be of assistance? That's one. The next one is, how can we get more teachers to apply? And what ideas do you have for spreading the word? So would you please take a few minutes and share your ideas in the chat window? Well, thank you, Ruth. Yes, social media is a good way to spread the word. And tomorrow, I know I'm doing a Twitter chat with Carolyn Hayes about awards and about the Shell Lab. Finding the time to get the application done. That's true. That is a barrier. Emails. You know, the best part of getting in and getting started, and that might be something you'd want to do tonight even, is get into that site, set up your username, get your password, and get yourself in there. And then get that, go back in, finish that first page of the application. And what's good is you get reminders as you go now, once you're in the site. So I think getting yourself online is really important so that you can get those emails from time to time. Biggest barrier is that not enough hours in the day. I think you figure out how to take the fear out of applying for grants, especially for large grants like this. You know, when I've asked teachers who have won the national, the 20,000 or the 8,500, so I said, how long did it take you to write it? I would say almost all of them said less than 20 hours. Now that's not 20 hours in one sitting. Some had said 15. But again, it doesn't take long. Once you get it done, you have someone read it over, a couple people. Then you go back and you fine-tune it. But again, I don't see that this one takes as long to write as what a large grant would. Somebody said that the teachers do not feel their lessons are of a high quality. Many teachers are beholden to district curriculum. All right? But still, you have a lesson, and you know which lessons that you can really inspire your students with, and the lessons that they really get excited about. So those are the lessons that you can put in your lesson plan. And as far as finding that time, you know, if you have, I'd say 7 weeks to do it, so do a little bit every week. Amanda said the application's shortened this year, so it shouldn't take as long. You may want to review a chapter from the Frugal Science Teacher through NSTA's Learning Center. All right, about writing the competitive or the competitions applications. If you have questions as you go, there is an email address. I know Amanda will then send them to me, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So we are here to help you to try to be successful in completing the application. Okay, Ruth, do we have any more that you can see?
No, I think you can go ahead and move on.
All right, thank you. What do the judges look for? The judges are looking for those science strategies that you use with the limited lab resources that were described. So how do you teach science using those limited lab resources? What strategies do you use? We look for your students' understanding of science concepts. How do you present those concepts? How science inquiry is utilized in your lab activities. And we look for the need for support for a lab upgrade and how the newly acquired resources would enhance the student's science knowledge. We know that what you're doing now is making a difference with your students in their science education. How will the newly acquired resources enhance the student's science knowledge even more? We look for a description of the lab activity that is innovative. And again, as I said, it is not from a lab activity. That's what we mean by innovative. Grade appropriate and can be replicated in other science labs. We look that you stated the national state standards or the NGSS standards, safety requirements for your lab activity. How do you assess this lab activity? And what is the purpose and outcome of your lab activity? What materials would a teacher need to replicate that lab activity? We look at the principal's letter. Does it attest to what's written in the application, supporting with additional statements? Does it describe the merits of your work in the letter of support? Why you should be the one who should lead the charge here? Do you, the applicant, and does the principal in the letter explain how the lab upgrade would address the needs of the school population? In the principal's letter, too, that the principal stating why this lab upgrade is needed. Why can't it be funded with district monies? What is the problem? And why would it be needed? All right, let's pause again for some more questions from the audience. I want to see if we do have some questions here.
We do, actually. Janine had a question from earlier. How critically is the level of writing judged in the application?
Well, I'd have to say that we look to make sure that you've answered all the questions that are asked in there. So when we're asking how do you impact students, we look for in the narrative that you've stated how you impact students, in what ways. So again, that you've answered what's there in there. We're not there to actually, score the writing as long as everything is answered. So again, if you go to the website and you use the scoring rubric as you're writing, and making sure that you're answering the things that are in the scoring rubric or scoring guide, you have you know that you've answered what you should. That's why it's a good idea to give someone who doesn't know you real well, excuse me, a copy of the application, and then let them read what you wrote. Do we have any other questions?
Not at this
yes,
time.
We are looking for content. Thank you, Amanda.
Not at this time, but I'm looking to see if anyone else. We do have a couple people that are typing, so I'm going to give them a couple of seconds to see if they are typing a question or just giving a comment. I would agree with Amanda that it's a good idea to put everything in a Word document and then cut and paste, because you're right. If the system times out, you've lost all your work.
That's right. And you want to make sure that you have a copy on your computer so that you don't lose it.
And, right. If you have a question, yeah, I'm sorry, Ruth. If you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat at this time.
Okay.
So it looks like you can go ahead and go on.
Thank you, Ruth. The application must be received by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, December the 15th, 2017. You submit your application and those supporting materials, such as your vita and the principal letter, to the Shell Science Lab Challenge or the Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge, electronic online right here, to the shellsciencelab.nsta.org. And if you Google Shell Science Lab or go to the NSTA website, you will get to the site where you're ready. Upon receipt, applications become the property of NSTA. They will not be returned, and late applications will not be accepted. You can send questions after this webinar to shellsciencelab@nsta.org. You can visit the website, and at the website you'll find this this question too. All right, from Amanda, she said please use www.nsta.org Shell Science Lab or nsta.org/shellsciencelab/regional. Okay. All right, I think that's we've come to the end of my slides. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Ruth. And anybody who still has questions, I would say feel free to put them in the chat box.
And Ruth, I think we just had a question that has been asked, and this would be a great time for you to answer it. It says, so it's on the recording, how critical is it to meet the 1,000 characters? Would I be penalized by exceeding the 1,000 character limit by a little?
Well, I'm going to let Amanda also chime in on the chat box. I would say that if you went over one, which equivalent to 1 or 2 sentences, it probably not. If you go over equivalent to maybe a half a page or more, another page, then it might. But again, I don't think it needs to be exactly that 1,000, but as close to it as you can. Oh, Amanda said it will lock you out of the system if you go over the character count. In other words, it is critical that you stay with the character count. because we don't want you locked out. So again, if you have that Word document and you put it in and you find out you got locked out, well then you can go back and see where you can do some cutting there, and then pasting too. Thank you, Amanda.
All right, do we have any other questions? Okay, well, I would like to thank our presenter, Ruud, for the information that she provided, and to the audience for their active participation. I'd also like to thank our program sponsor tonight. Thank you so much, Shell, for your sponsorship. And thank you to the administration of NSTA for their continued support for web seminars.